You make sure that.
All right, hello. This is Melissa Irvin, Chair of the Budget Committee. We are going to convene the meeting at 6:04 p.m. And we are going to start right off with the presentation of the 25-26 revised proposed budget.
Okay, let me start by asking folks on Zoom, can you give me a thumbs up or something if you can hear me? Just want to make sure our audio is working. Okay, thank you, Brandy. So posted on our governance website as of last Friday is the revised proposed budget based on board decisions that were made last Wednesday after the first budget committee meeting. I also took the opportunity to address a couple of questions that came up during the budget committee. And so the first one was about the assessor's estimate for property taxes that was in the packet for you to take a look at. There was also a copy of our profit and loss statement from QuickBooks for 23-24 showing what those audit adjustments were and kind of explaining why I believe the auditor directed us to put it in that location on our budget workbook. So going into the revised proposed budget, just going to keep going here. The board approved a reduction in force plan at the May 28th board meeting that included layoffs that are effective June 15th and reductions in the hours of the retained positions. Those are all included in the attached revised budget worksheets under the revised column. So you'll note that on the budget worksheets, there's the original proposed budget and then the revised proposed budget. Ultimately, there was a $64,000 reduction in personnel services, which is detailed in this memo by department. Because of those savings, we went ahead and put in a transfer of $9,000 to the maintenance reserve fund as part of the budget to get that maintenance reserve fund up to $20,000. Increased capital by $15,000 so that we can flush our heat exchangers, which is something we were recommended to do. So that brings up the total capital to $60,000. And then added $20,000 in contingency. And so the idea is if we have $20,000 budget authority in contingency and we have $20,000 in the maintenance reserve fund, that's $40,000 combined that could be used to respond to a capital maintenance need. That's about what one of our filters costs as a point of reference. And so as a result of those changes, the ending fund balance in the revised proposed budget is about $30,000. So it's about a $29,000 increase from the original proposed budget. I believe you all had a chance to take a look at this. I mean, I can walk through it. These were, in particular, the directives of the board for that reduction in force plan. We reduced recreation programs by 0.50 FTE. Our recreation director position is being retained through September 30th to assist with a number of plans that have to be written. Some of them have been required for a long time by the state of Oregon, and we don't have them. Some of them are new requirements under the new April 1st Oregon Health Authority aquatics facility rules. But they're all things that we can get done this summer. Then we reduced the aquatics operations supervisor position, and the executive director is going to take over those responsibilities when we reopen September 29th. And so the executive director will be the only supervisor on staff. We reallocated existing regular positions between rec programs and facilities. So we do have so now in this revised proposed budget, we have a lead CPO facilities coordinator, and then we have a portion of our head lifeguard twos who are also CPOs allocated to facilities because that's part of those requirements. And then we reduced the positions that are being retained for the summer to the maximum hours per board direction. So the full-time staff have a maximum of 30 hours per week, and the part-time staff have a maximum of 20 hours per week. That means we can be under the maximum, or with prior approval and good reasons, we can go over it. And then we added 250 hours of seasonal lifeguard time for the school year because the board asked that the executive director not be part of the staffing plan for aquatics and stayed off deck. And so we added back in some of those hours so that we would have capacity for swim meets in particular, but then also for contracted swim lessons during the school year. And then in all of the different departments, we reduced workers' comp a little bit because we're reducing our number of staff. I already talked about the MAC facility. I did add back in some custodial time that was originally cut from the budget because of taking me out of the aquatics rotation and then also removing the aquatics operations supervisor. There's not going to be enough capacity when we reopen for the lifeguard staff to be doing all those custodial duties. So it's still a reduction in custodial hours because there's a reduction in hours that were open, but we put some of those back in. And then for administration, we reduced it by 0.6 FTE, about $36,500. The executive director position was reduced to a maximum of 30 hours and changed to an hourly position rather than salaried. 2 additional positions in that budget were reduced to the maximum hours that the board directed. And so those are the changes within the general fund revised proposed budget. And then I already talked about the maintenance reserve fund and transferring that 9,000. So ultimately, all those changes resulted in the proposed budget being $9,000 more because now we are giving ourselves budget authority to transfer that additional 9,000 if needed to the general fund, which brings the total budget to $1,079,213. And I think that's the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I would ask the board to also help answer any questions about their direction last week.
Are there any things before, for what you have talked about? Okay, we will have a chance to deliberate later. So next on our agenda is to open public comment. Is there any person here who would like to make a public comment?
Thank you. I could have gone over gotten that.
All right, we've got we have 2 people here who have signed up to do public comment. Just want to remind you that we ask you to limit your dialogue for 3 minutes, and this is the time for you to comment. For the most part, we will not be able to comment on what you are saying directly during that time. So up first we have Cora Hollyman. If you can come up, and then if you can make sure that you speak into that little speaker there, you can hold it if you want to.
Okay, I'll do my best with all media movement speaking. So I'm Cora Hollyman, this is Lily. Hopefully she'll be quiet for us, but I was present at the last meeting. I've spoken to some of the board members via email and other communication. And I chose not to speak at the last board meeting or at the last budget committee because I felt like I had already said what I needed to say. But it didn't occur to me that the people on the budget committee probably aren't hearing what the board members are hearing. And a lot of what, people have to say to the board feels like it's falling on deaf ears. It was really hard to sit through some of the comments of like the crazy people on social media and the keyboard warriors. When it's like everyone knows how the public feels about the pool, and everyone knows we want to see more open swim. It's not a question of what people want. The board members, you guys are on Facebook, so it's really hard to say, oh, well, no one came to the meeting. So I am just a mom and I'm here at the meeting. I think it's really challenging when the public is treated like we could never possibly understand the budget or see that you're completely cutting services for our kids. And it's really not like, it's not getting you somewhere really helpful in your budget. It's not covering the $1 million pool liners and all of these things that we were told about during the vote. It's hard, I know, because my brain just works this way and I wish I could turn it off, truly. You know, that it doesn't take that much as far as one person to get frustrated and start collecting signatures to recall board members. And it's really challenging when all we hear is, well, we've already gone over that option. And then we sit in the meetings and people in the community watch the presentation and we see that there's no options because financially we can make things look like there's no options. I spoke with Irby after the budget meeting last week about, hey, did it cost $2 million when we drained the pool for COVID? And he went to Courtney and asked her about it, and she told him, no, the pool wasn't drained, the lap pool remained open and the pumps remained functioning, otherwise it would incur that large cost. And I'm sure that you're going to say that's probably what happened with the liners. And so also people can look and see in your pool plan, I'm sorry, I know that's my 3 minutes, but your pool plan doesn't mention that the liners need replaced. It says the party room and the locker room need to be remodeled. So it's really hard for the voters to have trust. And you've already seen that the voters are willing to vote to dissolve the district. And that's not what anyone wants. But at some point, somebody has to start having conversations that are separate from what happens at this table and listening, like, how are you going to earn the vote? Because I don't think this plan, cutting all the services for the kids and having your, elderly swimmers that depend on being in the water in the mornings is gonna make it happen. So I don't think this is the way. I don't know what the way is, but you can see in your budget that this doesn't really help. So we know that you have the same tax dollars coming in as last year. And it's challenging to see these cuts being made and people saying, well, that's our only option. Should have came to the meetings for the last however many years. It's just really hard. So thank you for going over my time. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Trudy.
Supposed to say my name.
Yes.
Trudy Haugen. So just to mimic the things that Corin said is that I also did contact the board members last meeting, and I did not contact the budget committee, or I didn't speak because I felt like I had spoke, but budget committee didn't really know how other people felt, and so I am speaking. One of the biggest concerns that I have, or one of the biggest questions that I've had, is on the local option levy. 2013, the verbiage talks about the levy supports activities including swim lessons, swim team, water polo, water aerobics, youth soccer, flag football, adult league basketball. Then again, in 2018, the verbiage again talks about the same things: water polo, swim teams, out of water recreation programming, that they can't do those things without the funds. 2023, the local option levy goes out again. And again, it says, without the revenue, we can't do land-based and aquatics activity fees. And then it lists, and the explanatory statement, swimming, aqua aerobic classes, youth and adult recreations such as soccer, youth flag football, youth football, youth club volleyball, basketball, pickleball, youth adult. So this went before the voters in 2023 for the 40 cents. They approved it for these programs. But now we can't even have those. But you are getting the 40 cents and you are levying for all of, for the funds, but you're not producing the things that's listed in here. So, I mean, I guess that's fine, as long as nobody gets their knickers in a knot and contacts the Secretary of State and files a complaint, which maybe they won't do anything, maybe they won't, maybe they'll decide that the board can make that decision and can say how the funds are used. But, once again, you're gonna be going to these same voters and you're gonna be asking for a yes. And this is the type of stuff that we've gotten for the past two local option levies. So just a concern. The other thing is, all of a sudden recreation makes no money. I don't understand that. I mean, I've gone through the numbers, it's not my deal. But when I see that $100,000 used to go towards your recreation or towards your lifeguards, just lifeguards, and now that isn't, I guess I question how much did it cost to do those day camps that no one in this community could afford? So anyway, my last thing is all of the bragging that we do on the voters about how they don't know anything. In this plan that you guys had done from the Barker group, it's amazing how the hours were split morning and evening. But voters, we don't know anything, it's only the staff that know, what hours make a recreation district go. This is December of 2024, totally opposite of what you're doing. So anyway, and because Corey didn't have a chance to say it, if you go back to your Facebook post, this pool was completely drained for 3 months. And it was done to save on utilities. And tons of repairs were done. You can go through all the Facebook posts, they're all still there and you can see it. And so, I mean, I don't know, maybe we can't drain it. Maybe it will cost $1 to $3 million, but it didn't before. And I mean, I wouldn't want to make that risk if that's what you're being told, but it might be a great way to bank a bunch of funds to be able to purchase, to repair something or do something. So,
Thank you, Trudy. All right, is there anyone here that did not have a chance to sign in or comment? Is there anyone online that would like to add public comment?
If you would like to speak online, you could just unmute. I'm not seeing them.
Someone's trying.
Julie, if you're trying.
Oh,
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I've never done Zoom before as far as speaking. I'm just curious if the
Julie,
sorry.
can you state your full name, please?
My full name is Julie Lundy, Lundy.
Thank you.
And I would just like to ask if we close the pool in September for maintenance, which is what I think happens every year. I'm wondering why we can't drain the pool, close the pool in June, July, and August. That saves us all of the payroll of anyone that needs to work there. And during those months, they can do the pool maintenance. Apparently it happened during COVID. The pool was entirely drained. I haven't heard a number as to what it cost then to drain it and fill it. But it just seems to me that that would be saving a lot of time, and then you could open in September. Just a thought.
Thank you, Julie. Is there anyone else online?
There's no comments or no
Okay.
chat boxes, so I'm assuming no.
Great. So there's no further comments online. We now move into the budget committee deliberations. we can ask questions of Courtney, we can talk amongst ourselves, about the options. Courtney, you had also sent an email today with some responses to emails. How best can we enter that response into the public record so that those comments back and forth are included in the minutes for the meeting?
Yeah, they've been printed, so they'll be included in that official packet.
Okay. I don't know if anyone here has had a chance to read those comments in the back and forth. Okay. Okay. I am the chair, so I don't want to start this discussion because I feel like then people just hear from me. So if there are other members of this committee who have some comments or questions, now is your time.
As a board member, I'll just say that we've hashed these comments and suggestions around for the last probably 8 months at least. So what else? So as a board member, I really don't have any sheet to do. The numbers are what they are, unfortunately.
And Brandy has her hand raised, so.
Okay, Brandy, if you can go ahead.
Yes, so I did read the email correspondence, and one question I have is within the budgets, like we say, this is where we're paying for recreation, this is where administration, usually like allocation of payroll is put within the budget that aligns with the type of work performed. And it was discussed like why, if the rec person is doing administrative duties, then that FTE level should be switched to the admin budget, not the rec budget, and vice versa. Have we cleared any of the, I haven't seen if there was subsequent emails written, but are you able to clarify on that?
Yes, Brandy, I can answer that question. So the reason that it's still located in recreation is because all of the plans and the operational plans and the safety plans and all of those things tie back to recreation, tie back to aquatics, and the programs that we offer and how we function on deck. And because that's all recreation related, it's in that particular budget. Does that answer the question?
It does, but when you look at like an administrative budget, usually admin is doing indirect work for subsidiary services. So like, like take, let's just hypothetically say City of Madras, they have an admin or finance department. Yeah, they do policy stuff for roads. They help with sewer, water. That still gets paid out of admin because it's not like that department is, it's not in their job duties to do policy development or admin. So I was just thinking like, have we nailed down like truly if during this closure time, there is rec doing true administration work, we should align the budget with where those dollars are truly being spent for transparency.
So Janelle was asking for clarification about, where that distinction is being made. Between the rec budget, and I think that if I understand correctly, the item that's being talked about is on the personnel line item for recreation programs.
Yeah, so there's a portion, well, the whole recreation director, that temporary position is under seasonal salaries in the recreation programs budget. Along with the seasonal salaries for the lifeguards for those hours that we plugged in, versus having it in admin under seasonal. My recommendation is to leave it where it is because to me, that's where it most closely aligns with the work that's going to be happening. But if the budget committee wants to move a portion of that to admin instead, I think that that's for the committee to decide.
I mean, as a budget committee member, when I when I hear that we're not offering recreation services, and then I see total personnel services under recreation is $123,000. That makes me wonder what we're spending that money on. I didn't realize that that's where the lifeguard salaries are.
So
As
all of
opposed
our
to the-
recreation, aquatics, land, it's all under recreation programs.
So then what are the salaries under the Madras Aquatic Center facility?
So the MAC facility those are our facility related expenses. We have
Okay.
seasonal custodial and then our lead CPO maintenance coordinator.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else on the committee?
I mean, I'll speak because you'll see my email to Courtney. I continue to question the number of hours that are allocated. The FTE that's allocated for a facility that's not going to be open. I do have experience writing policy. I do have experience interpreting regulations. I find it really difficult to imagine that there is going to be somebody working 30 hours a week for 4 months writing policy to come into compliance with OHA regulations. I've read the regulations. Every public pool in the state is coming into compliance. I mean, it would be unusual for us to just start from scratch and write all of these policies ourselves, right? Other facilities are staying open all summer and still writing these policies and coming into compliance while offering services. So that's my opinion.
Well, that being said, we don't know that those other facilities don't have the means to hire in extra staff to assist with those chores as well. And where possibly last year for the month of September, we had 20-some people employed to do all the maintenance that's done in the month of September. We're gonna spread it out then through July and August. So I think it's easy for any of us to sit back and say, what did they really do? I mean, I used to get it when I was the assessor. What did she do? She just sits in there at her desk, you know, because we don't know until we sit in that seat. Yeah.
I can appreciate that, but what I heard Courtney say that the recreation director hours are September 30th is to write policy and to come into compliance with OHA guidelines.
I think if you ask for a better clarification, you'll find out that there's a whole
I did
lot more
ask for clarification in my email,
besides that.
and that's what I was told.
The staff that we're gonna keep through the summer is hopefully gonna get all of that maintenance accomplished as well as this new OHA plans.
I was not told that that recreation director position would be doing maintenance.
Well, we call it maintenance, but helping out your
Oh,
girls.
we've got about a 15-page running document of all the things that have to be done, including repositioning offices and break room space. And not only is it writing policies and procedures that go with them, but training all the staff on it, incorporating it into our onboarding, which we don't even have. There is a lot that has to be done. It's not as easy as just sitting at a computer and writing a policy. It's also making it part of the operational world of the folks that are left. And then it's also documenting all of the recreation things. We had a conversation today with a couple of folks that are thinking about putting basketball together, and they were saying, can you guys help us? And we're like, well, you know, one of the things we're going to do this summer is we're going to have this handbook on timelines and what you should probably be doing. And these are the things that we don't have right now that we're going to use this summer to get us there. And I don't have capacity to take on any of that work with my workload. So we need to have someone else with a director level framework and mindset do that. And there is no one else in this building that can.
So when you say things like that you're putting together a policy manual on how to start up basketball, yet you say that your focus is going to be the aquatic center and you're not providing recreation.
So that,
I mean, those are the things that
It's all part of the email where I talk about the things that are required by these new rules and the things that we've talked about that are important for this district to be successful long term and also continue trying to do what's best for the community.
Some of this is catch up, and I've only been on the board, I think this is my 3rd year. But in those first few years, it was the maintenance that we got hit with, that we had nothing in reserves for, and we're trying to play catch up. Now, I wish hope that we get to bring land-based games back again someday, but the public spoke and they said, the pool is the first thing that we voted for, so our focus is, okay, let's get this pool healthy, let's get this pool up and running.
I mean, I think that's what I would like to see. I would like to see the pool like it was when my kids were little. And it was one of the biggest assets of living in this community when my children were in grade school.
Yeah. Maybe those dark ones will take basketball back.
Right. Fix it, nobody does.
I'd like to jump in here for a minute, too, is that I started getting more and more involved in coming to board meetings in early 2000, as best as I can remember. I thought this was a tremendous asset, and so I was very concerned about what I was hearing and what was happening here at the pool at the time. It was a completely different board. They made some decisions that we are still paying for. Financed basically a swim team out of here. We spent a lot of money supporting that swim team, and we spent nothing on maintenance. So when I started looking at it, and I've done a lot of consulting and looked at a lot of huge programs, I looked at it and thought, wow, this is a disaster waiting to happen. So I started getting more and more involved. So when I hear people talk about that, like when your kids were younger, we want it to be that way, but we can't go back there without spending the money. And in those days, we had the money, but we spent it on something else. And we went through bad managers. I mean, bad managers to the point where they stole money. We went through bad boards that made horrendous decisions that really damaged this entire organization and into the future. And so when I talk to people, all I hear is about how it was originally formed and how it's been run poorly. And I can't say anything to that because the reason I got involved initially was because of just those things. I thought this pool was going to fall apart. So I got involved and I've been following. I wanted to be on the board, but then this new board took over. And all of a sudden they're writing their goals and what they're supposed to be doing as a organization to support the community. I've watched them go through from A to Z and really do a bang-up job of things. And we got a great manager who has really done a good job in my mind, under really difficult circumstances. But what we can't break loose from is the fact that we are paying for the sins of the past.
Amen.
I mean, guaranteed, I can prove it if you want, but that's what we're paying for now. So without the community saying, hey, we trust you again and we'll give you the money, and then expecting us to perform, then we are stuck with what the board, or not the board, but what the community says. And if that's no money, then unfortunately the services aren't there. It's like that last budget meeting. If you don't have enough gas in your tank, if you only got 3 gallons of gas in your tank, you're going to head out for Portland? Because that's not going to work for you. It's the same thing here. I understand, well, if everyone understands cash flow, you realize if you don't have the cash, then you better, cut the expenses until you do have some cash. So we have this short-term cash flow problem. And then one of the things I've always said to people that I was consulting with is, don't spread out and try to do all this stuff. Do your core to the very best of your ability. Make everybody happy. You look competent when you do that. When you take on more stuff than what you can handle, and unfortunately, we don't have the cash flow to support, we will look incompetent. If we have people that are sick and all of a sudden we're not open, then we go down, that rabbit hole. So what I can say is the board has completely changed. They are very organized and professional. They've put together all of the information. The community just doesn't trust us to do that. They don't understand that all this stuff happened in the past, and this board and Courtney are paying for the sins of past. So I know this is difficult, and I don't like the results. I hate them, but I do have a lot of. I would like to support the board. I have a lot of confidence in the board and Courtney, and think that they will do the very best job with the resources they're given. So, and I hope we got that. Thanks. I mean, promise.
Can I ask just a clarifying question, because I want to be really clear on the budgeted personnel. In the general fund summary, it states the budgeted personnel to be 3.75 in the revised budget.
Yes.
And that, that adds up between the rec program, the aquatic facility, and admin. What is not included in that 3.75 FTE? Is it just the seasonal lifeguards? Because those are, or is that included? I'm sorry.
So so all of the staffing is included in that's in this budget. So the seasonal lifeguards for the school year, the 7 people within those positions that will be retained, 6 people plus however many months.
Just at reduced
hours. Correct. And so what is taken out of it is a full-time supervisor position in aquatics, additional seasonal hours if we were going to be open more hours, and then any staff that are at 40 hours are salaried. It's all hourly under 30.
And are there, and then what are the contracted services? Is that maintenance?
So there's contracted services in both the MAC facility budget and in the admin budget.
Yeah.
So the MAC facility budget contract services, let me get that. So there's nothing in recreation for contractual services. Contractual services under the MAC facility include landscaping, landscaping services. I've got about 10,000 in there for a contractor to help us with starting to prepare for the locker room project and the walls that are disintegrating. And then I think that there's a little bit in there for towels and mat cleaning and that sort of stuff.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. And then in the admin budget, the 45,000 for contractual services, it's 16,000 for the audit, 13,000 for technology services, and then the remainder is for SDAO contractual support for looking at if we go out for RFP for privatization or whatever that next step solution looks like. It's for assistance with that.
Thank you.
Yep.
I guess, for me, I know how hard that the board has worked on this budget and a view of what we can do. I guess I ask myself the question, have I satisfied my own question about whether or not this budget reflects a true focus on providing services as the 40 cents tax implies? And I feel personally that I cannot say that. I feel personally that closing for that much time this summer and then right now looking at a 3 hour window in the afternoons during the week does not satisfy that 40 cents. And I guess I feel that while I believe that we need to have updated policies and comply with regulations, that the first thing on our list is to provide a service. And I guess I feel like that is missing from this budget. And I'm not saying that you guys haven't talked about dollars and cents and how that works, but I do feel like we are falling short of offering services.
If we don't get it with the new rules.
I would think that OHA would do an education process first and work with us to try and identify how to bring us up to compliance. Ultimately, they have the stick. They have fines and they can close you down. And I would think that they would start with trying to provide support before they came in and shut anybody down.
One of the things you said is you don't think that policies are as important as the services, but if we don't fill out policies, then we can't provide the services. So there's your catch-22.
However, I mean, I work in a very regulated field that other people do. And there honestly in a regular workday isn't always time to lockstep those together. And that sometimes you do have to jog ahead a little bit while you update your policies and procedures. So I don't think it's unfounded in any entity that while changes have happened, you have to do them while you are performing services. So I guess this is not an unusual thing to happen in a regulated environment. Restaurants rules changing all the time. You have rules in office for providing services for healthcare changing all the time. And they don't always have the opportunity to close for 3 or 4 months and update their policies and procedures. So I think while I understand the realities of what needs to be done, I think that we also have to balance the question of is that worth 40 cents? Is that worth 40 cents that people are paying for their assessed value? Do you know what I'm saying? I think we have to ask that question.
Why am with this is that I will first and foremost admit that accounting and all this is not my expertise. I can tell you that the hydraulic system needs some major maintenance, and that's kind of why I got on board. But I also realize that we have this much money. And if one of those boilers fail, and the maintenance isn't done, then we shut down anyway. So, but what would you like to see? How much would you like to see? 4 more hours a week?
I don't think that in my mind I have a specific hour amount, but what I would like to say is that the hours that have been posted for people who are working are going to be very hard to meet. So I think some recognition of the reality of people using the pool and what times that would be applicable. But I think the bigger question is where in the priorities is that user? And especially this summer, I feel like we are putting the user behind. So I would advocate that we figure out a way to be more open this summer. Now, I'm not the only say, everybody has a vote in this. This is just my personal opinion.
As we batted that around, I was adamant that I think the best time to close is in the summer because we've got splash pad and we've got the lakes and the rivers. You know, so if we're gonna have to shut down, I think the best time to do it is now for this.
That's the lowest attendance times too.
It's not the lowest attendance times, it's the highest cost times because of all the open swims and the staffing required for that. It's not our highest revenue months. Our highest revenue months are November, December, January, February when we have swim teams in the facility.
Brandy does have her hand raised.
Winter. We have a tentative plan, but that doesn't mean that it's not open for discussion between now and September. And who knows, maybe there's gonna be a miracle between now and then, and we're ready to open September 15th instead of September 30th. No, if it happens, we will. Absolutely.
I think one of the places I've been struggling is, I think that, back to Steve's point, the district has been prioritizing services over the district for so long, and that's why we're in the trouble that we're in. So for me, it was the mindset shift, we've got to take care of the district and make sure that it's gonna be here to serve the community. And right now, I mean, we're not. As Frank said, you know, there's so many time bombs in this building that it's just a matter of time before we're devastated to the point that it is, you know, plywood over the windows and a padlock on the door. I mean,
You know, as I was thinking over the financials and looking back to that COVID year, I thought the best thing that could happen to us this summer is that there's a COVID outbreak and we shut down and the government gives us that money. Because really, you look at the books, he's like, please. When you look at the books for this district, that COVID money back in 2021 bailed this district out and kept it afloat for another 2 years. And that's a fact.
Sorry, we couldn't ignore
Yeah.
Brandy
Yeah.
online. Brandy, I'm gonna be.
Hi,
Yeah.
thank you. So I just want to kind of piggyback on the statement of like, are we truly putting programs or you know, the public at the forefront of this budget? And every budget tells a story. Yes, I've had many years of experience in government budgets. And if I'm just like glancing at this budget, I'm like, well, gee, it looks like we have rec funds, but yet the pool's closed. And I'm like, I don't feel like I can honestly sign off, like support this budget the way it currently is because it's isn't being transparent with what is actually going to happen. Um, and, you know, you say, oh, the district has, you know, for years hasn't been taken care of, you know, the services have. Well, we got to always remember we're public servants. If we didn't have the taxes, you wouldn't even have the jobs. We wouldn't even have the facility. We, without the public or respecting the public's input, wouldn't. I mean, yeah, the levies fail, but we still have that 40 cents, and that 40 cents could go, you know, in we could develop 10 different scenarios, right? But with the scenario currently as is, like, I just think about it. Take a step back. We're approving a budget tonight, potentially, for closing the pool, and it's still costing the same amount of money at the end of the year than if, you know, we had alternative arrangements. I just don't feel like it really truly aligns with meeting the needs of the public at this point.
I don't think there's a board member here that would disagree with that.
I think there's one thing, it's now we're closing the pool, for a period of time.
Temporary.
So it's not like we're taking the 40 cents and scooping it and running. What we're trying to do is make our cash flow work till September. And we're gonna take that 40 cents and we're gonna try to maintain it and have it operable as often as we can for the rest of the year. And that's in spite of a lot of organizations like this are at $1.20, not 40 cents. $1.20 would, I mean, they solve a lot of problems in a very short period. So it's not, we're closing the pool down completely, keeping the 40 cents. We're closing the pool down to help our cash flow and then be able to operate it legally and safely for the rest of the year.
So Courtney, you had stated before the meeting that we're having to borrow into our next year's tax fund through the tax anticipation loan. Maybe you could state those. I don't remember what those figures were, but here we are, and we haven't even made it to June 30th yet. We don't have the funds to operate through the month of June right now.
We didn't have the funds to operate through the month of May either. So our tax anticipation loan is $250,000. We have already used $68,000 of that to get us to this point, June 4th, paying bills for May. And the $40,000 that we had to use to make our final bond payment because of the tax adjustment that happened last summer, and us not having the tax funds to make that final payment is a huge piece of that story.
Does that shed any light on the budget committee about how we're gonna start next year?
It does, and I really do appreciate you board members. And I also appreciate that the budget committee has a job to do and the board has a job to do, and those aren't necessarily the same jobs, and there's a reason why I'm not a board member, because that is a lot. And Deanna made a comment that we're taking care of the district, and Frank made a comment that there's so much work that needs to be done, and there's time bombs in this building. So I guess I don't understand, and I'm genuine in that I just don't understand that closing for the summer, but allowing one group to use the pool for the summer. Like, what is saved by, because we're not draining the pool, we're not. Like, what is it that's you're doing during that 3 months that can't be done if you shift those hours to the morning and allow the swim team to swim to practice and the leisure pool to be open for toddler time and the seniors who want to come and exercise?
Staffing, what's the biggest cost of any business?
But your staffing is so minimal with that, and you don't need additional lifeguards according to the OHA regulations based on the number of swimmers that are anticipated to be in the pool.
But if they're in a separate pool, then they don't have 2 more lifeguards. Lifeguards
You don't need
can't
2
watch the-
lifeguards for each pool, though.
Here's what I will say. It goes back to what Steve said. So Steve said it's about consistency and not having to close when people are sick. So when you think about the summer and you think about people taking time off, you think about vacations and only having 3 people dedicated to lifeguarding, and you think about a swim team with 20 people that you know it's only going to be 20 people. And then when you open it to the public, you could have 20, you could have 5, you could have 60, you could have any number of people. And the consistency is challenging to staff for in any scenario where you only have 3 dedicated lifeguards. And then you add on to that what I expect will be thousands of hours of data entry for coming into compliance with the asset management requirements. And the work that has to be done in terms of training on all of the new operational requirements that will be part of these plans that we're developing, there is not enough time in the day for us and not enough lifeguard staff to be able to provide that consistency of service if we open to the public. We have operating partnership agreements with the Madras swim team and with the 509J school district. And we can reduce the temperature on the pools for both of those groups by a couple of degrees, and that saves us probably $5,000 to $10,000 over the 3-month period. There are still savings associated with that.
There's also income generated from that, and you're already open in the early mornings for people to come. So it's not a guessing game. You have a pretty consistent number of.
No. So in the summer, we have family swim time in the leisure pool as well. And we have
That's not what I'm suggesting. Like, your early morning hours are what they are.
Yeah. And that is part of those hours. And so when you have families showing up to swim, my job is to provide operational direction for the district. What I'm telling you is it doesn't work. Come and hang out in the building in a morning for the next week and check it out. Like, we are scrambling to add, Amanda's over there nodding with me. We're scrambling to add lifeguards because, oh gosh, we're over the 40. Who's in the building? That Courtney, you got to jump on the chair. It's just, we can't live like that and get all of these things done and be limited to 30 to 20 to 30 hours a week. We cannot do it. It's not, if we could do it, I would have proposed it. I'm a little frustrated, I'm sorry. It's really challenging to explain the operational intricacies that we live with every day to folks that don't see it every day.
But I also feel like it's incumbent on us as board members or, committee members to ask these questions. These are the questions the
Yeah.
public are asking. Why can't we use our pool that we were paying for?
Yeah.
So I don't mean any offense to you. I do genuinely appreciate the work that you do on behalf of the pool. But I just feel like for my own job as committee member, I want to understand a little bit more why we are foregoing revenue. And still keeping the pool open for certain partners, but not to the public.
And the other thing is, I have just a detail, maybe from what I've seen is if you put 20 people from the swim team in, that takes care of all the lanes that are doubled up and don't have enough people to, they have to triple up on some lanes. And so your community, what's that?
That's something always has.
Yeah. But then my point is then if you add the morning swim people and the workout people, there just aren't enough lanes to go by. I mean, there's just not enough lanes.
We'll all be there at the same time.
There to be all, yeah, exactly, to be there sometime. So it's not like you can put everybody in the pool at one time, not doing what they're doing, what the older people are. Well, that's what I do.
Than to other pools where if they don't have the lifeguards, they work here early, they have a line outside while you wait. And I don't think that that's an unpractical message to send if you do extend hours and there's a lifeguard shortage. But at least you're giving the opportunity. And I think that, yes, consistency is important. But I think also the message that we're open for business is important.
This isn't the first time in the district's history that it's had to close down black finances. I believe the very first year of operation it shut down for a month because they didn't have the finances. And the next year, I think it was Cozy, Keith, and Brightwood stepped up to only have money for that second month. So I'm ready to make a motion if you're done deliberating. I make a motion that we approve the budget as presented this evening. Do you want me to read the sample? I move that the Budget Committee of the Mac Recreation District approve the budget for the 2025-26 fiscal year in the amount of $1,079,213 in property taxes for the 2025-26 fiscal year at the rate of 25 cents per thousand assessed value for the permanent rate levy and 40 cents per thousand of assessed value for the local option levy for operating purposes in the general fund and an amount of 40,000 for the general bond principal and interest in the debt service.
So I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? All right, seconded by Steve. All right, any further deliberations? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. Nay.
Nay.
So where did we get that?
4-3.
So motion carries. All right, thank you everybody for participating, and I know that everyone has worked very hard on this process and the board has researched and done what they need to do. I appreciate everybody who's here and look forward to continuing work on the map in the future. So we can adjourn the meeting at 7 p.m.